When the US government shuts down, the question isn't if there will be consequences. The question is who pays the price. Because make no mistake, a shutdown is never free. Somebody always carries the weight: workers, families, businesses, and even global markets. The lights may go off in Washington. The fallout spreads everywhere. Point one team, federal workers on the front line. When the US government shuts down, the first and most immediate victims are federal workers. These are the men and women who keep the machinery of government running, the clerks processing documents, the scientists monitoring public health, the air traffic controllers keeping planes from colliding, the border patrol agents keeping America secure. Overnight, their lives are turned upside down. A shutdown divides them into two categories: furloughed workers and essential workers. Furloughed workers are told not to come to work and not to expect a paycheck. They are left at home waiting, suspended in uncertainty. Essential workers are told they must come in because their roles are critical, but they will not be paid until the shutdown ends. Imagine the stress of waking up at 5 a.m., putting on your uniform, keeping airports safe or protecting borders, knowing that your bank account is draining by the day. It's a cruel paradox. People most critical to public safety and national functioning are forced to work without compensation, while others are benched against their will. And for all of them, the same fear echoes. How will I pay my bills? The ripple effects are enormous. Federal workers are not some faceless group. They are neighbors, parents, members of communities. They pay mortgages, buy groceries, send kids to school. When their paychecks stop, their entire local economy feels it. Restaurants lose customers. Shops see sales fall. Landlords wait for rent. Even if back pay eventually arrives, the damage is already done. Debt piles up. Late fees add pressure. Stress fractures families, and not everyone gets back pay. Contractors, people who provide services through private companies to the government, often never recover their lost income. A janitor cleaning a federal building or a cafeteria worker in a government office may simply see their paycheck vanish forever. For those living paycheck to paycheck, which surveys show is nearly half of US households, even a short shutdown is catastrophic. Missed bills damage credit scores. Emergency savings evaporate. Families are forced into impossible choices: groceries or rent, medicine or utilities. Shutdowns reveal something most people forget. The government is not an abstract entity. It is people. And those people are the ones who bear the brunt of political failure. When Congress fails to pass a budget, it's not politicians who feel the pain first. It's workers, the men and women who keep the country functioning. They are the frontline casualties of every shutdown. Point two, in families and communities, when federal workers lose their paychecks, it's not just their personal lives that get disrupted. It's their families and entire communities that pay the price. A shutdown is like pulling a thread in a sweater. Once it unravels, the damage spreads far beyond the first tug. Families of furloughed or unpaid workers face immediate, crushing decisions. Do you dip into the little savings you have, hoping the shutdown ends soon? Do you swipe a credit card and take on debt? You call the landlord and beg for a grace period. For children, it means uncertainty. Parents stress about money. Vacations are canceled, school trips go unpaid, and the household atmosphere shifts from stability to anxiety. But it's not just the federal workforce, it's the communities around them. Federal employees spend money in local economies every single day. They eat at restaurants, shop at grocery stores, pay for daycare, and visit barbers. When their income disappears, so do those purchases. Small businesses begin to feel the pinch almost immediately. A neighborhood diner near a federal office suddenly loses half its customers. A local dry cleaner sees business cut in half because government workers aren't going to the office. A daycare center loses parents who can no longer afford tuition. Communities dependent on federal spending or contracts feel it even harder. Towns near military bases, border stations, or large federal facilities watch their economies slow down overnight. It's not just about consumer spending. It's about trust. Shutdowns send the message that paychecks tied to government are unstable, shaking confidence in communities that depend on them. Families and communities don't get headlines during a shutdown, but they live the harshest reality. They are the ones who juggle bills, cut back on essentials, and sacrifice peace of mind. Every day of delay in Washington means another day of uncertainty in their homes. Point 30, businesses and contractors. The federal government is the largest customer in America. It contracts everything: construction, research, IT, janitorial services, catering, security. When a shutdown freezes these payments, it's not just government employees who suffer. Contractors and the businesses that support them pay an enormous price. Large contractors may survive by relying on reserves, but small businesses take the hardest hit. A family-owned cleaning company that services a federal building stops getting paid. A construction company building a government-funded project is forced to halt operations. A research firm relying on federal grants suddenly has no funding to continue its work. Unlike federal employees, contractors often don't receive back pay. Every missed day is money lost forever. These disruptions ripple outward. If contractors stop, hiring suppliers lose business. If projects halt, subcontractors are left with unpaid invoices. For some businesses, even a short shutdown is the difference between survival and closure. And once a small business closes, it rarely comes back. Beyond direct contractors, businesses that depend indirectly on government spending suffer. Travel agencies lose bookings if federal conferences are cancelled. Local hotels lose guests if federal training events stop. Farmers who depend on USDA loans or payments see their support frozen. The entire private sector feels the drag. The irony is stark. The government shutdown, intended as a political tactic, ends up punishing the private sector, the very businesses leaders claim to champion. Contractors and businesses don't make the budget decisions, but they pay the price of gridlock. Point 40, the economy and markets shutdowns are not just political theater, they are economic blows. Every day the government is closed, billions are drained from the economy. GDP growth slows, unemployment ticks up, and consumer confidence takes a hit. The macro impact is clear. Federal spending makes up a large portion of the US economy. When that stops, the economy sputters, workers cut spending, contractors pause projects, and businesses delay investments. Economic activity doesn't just pause, it shrinks. The Congressional Budget Office has repeatedly shown that shutdowns reduce GDP growth, even if temporarily. Markets, too, hate the uncertainty. Stocks fall as investors question stability. Companies that depend on government contracts, defense firms, infrastructure builders, research labs see their stock prices wobble. Investors retreat into safe havens like gold and the yen, while US Treasury yields fluctuate based on debt fears. In Forex, the shutdown rattles confidence in the dollar. Sometimes the dollar weakens as investors worry about dysfunction. Other times it strengthens, ironically, because it's still seen as the safest asset in a chaotic world. Either way, volatility spikes. GBP USD, ER USD, and USD JPY often swing violently during prolonged shutdowns. The shutdown doesn't just waste money, it undermines trust. Economies run on confidence. If consumers don't trust paychecks, they stop spending. If businesses don't trust government stability, they stop investing. If investors don't trust the US system, they move capital elsewhere. That erosion of confidence is far more damaging than the lost days of work. Point 5, the political illusion. Shutdowns are rarely about budgets. They're about politics. Politicians frame shutdowns as a fight for principle. They stand at podiums pointing fingers, telling the public they're protecting taxpayers or defending values. But here's the truth: politicians rarely pay the price. Their salaries continue during a shutdown. Their staff continues working. Their offices remain funded. The fallout doesn't hit them. It hits everyone else. Political illusion is that a shutdown is about fiscal responsibility. In reality, it's a power play. One party uses it to pressure another. Leaders use it to rally their base. It becomes a game of chicken. Who will blink first? But while they argue, federal workers miss paychecks, families suffer, businesses lose contracts, and markets shake. Shutdowns expose a brutal reality. Politics often prioritizes theater over people. Leaders use ordinary citizens as pawns, gambling with livelihoods while they negotiate in front of cameras. And when it ends, they declare victory while the scars remain for the people who carried the weight. The political illusion fuels public cynicism. Citizens begin to lose faith, not just in politicians, but in government itself. If leaders can't even keep the lights on, how can they be trusted to handle bigger issues? That erosion of trust is one of the deepest costs of every shutdown. Point 6 is the global fallout. The US Government shutdown may begin as a domestic crisis, but its fallout is global. Allies look at America and wonder if it can still be relied on. If Washington can't pass a budget, can it really be trusted to lead global alliances, enforce trade agreements, or provide security commitments? Every shutdown chips away at the image of reliability rivals. Meanwhile, seize the moment. They point to dysfunction as proof that democracy is weak, that America is divided, that its system is breaking down. Shutdowns become propaganda tools for authoritarian regimes eager to show that their people that democracy doesn't work. Global investors watch nervously. Central banks and sovereign funds hold trillions in US assets. A shutdown makes them question whether the dollar can always be counted on. It raises whispers about diversifying away from US treasuries or reducing reliance on the dollar as the world's reserve currency. Even the hint of that possibility shakes global markets. For UK traders, the global fallout is especially important. Shutdowns in Washington mean volatility in London. GBP USD reacts not just to the Fed or the Bank of England, but to America's political dysfunction. Global spillovers ripple through Forex, commodities, and equities. What begins in Washington echoes in every trading hub across the world. The global message of every shutdown is the same: if the strongest economy can stumble, no system is invincible. For allies, it's a warning. For rivals, it's ammunition. For traders, it's volatility. For ordinary people worldwide, it's proof that division has consequences far beyond borders.